Offshore Technology Conference Asia, and this is the executive interview. This is where I get an opportunity to do one-to-one with senior executives in the industry, really looking at, changing trends, strategy, looking at digital breakthroughs, looking at new technology. We have so much to discuss. And today, in this particular episode, I'm absolutely delighted now to be joined by the president and the CEO of Weatherford. Girish Saligram joins us. Girish, great to see you.
Etna, great to see you again, and thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here at OTC Asia, albeit virtually, but I think that's just a reminder of how we've all evolved over the last couple of years, and it also makes it in some ways very convenient, but really a terrific opportunity, and thank you for having me.
Well, great to have you, and of course, we want to know what's going on at Weatherford, and one of, I think, the key buzzwords in terms of what you always do, we talk about innovation, we talk about the adoption of digitalization. And again, when we look at what's been happening over the years, it's almost like not even adoption of digitalization anymore. We're there. We're right. We might not be in the middle of it, but we're well on the way, and there's no going back. Talk to me about now how important this journey is for the energy industry right now.
Now, look, I think it is one of the most predominant themes for our entire industry. It is actually for the whole world, and we see that in many different ways, shapes, and forms. And digitalization is transforming industries as a whole, and we've seen that across multiple sectors. So when we come down to energy and oilfield services in particular, we are no exception. I think it's an increasingly important factor, and it is as you said, look, we're at some stage along somewhere in the beginning to the middle, but nowhere at a point of maturity. So the pace of adoption is accelerating. As we just mentioned earlier, the COVID-19 pandemic was a inflection point for the whole industry to a large extent. And I think it's actually forced us to accelerate a number of digital strategies. And I think this will pay rich dividends for all of us as we go forward. Everything from remote operations, which has transformed the nature of how we deliver service to our customers, to how do you do real-time monitoring, to the convergence of different technologies. So for us at Weatherford, this is a defining aspect. It's one of our strategic vectors as we look to transform the overall shape of our business as well as contribute to the industry. So incredibly important, very exciting. We see that in multiple product lines, multiple services that we deliver to customers, and we've got a very exciting array of digital products. And really the notion of, creating the energy of innovation for us is increasingly important, and this is a big pillar of that.
Indeed, and when you talk about what's going on and how digitalization has, it's part of our daily lives now. I mean, it's of course part of the industry, but also the fact that nobody questions it anymore. We're so comfortable with it, So when we look, I think in terms of how mobility impacts us at home, certainly in the workplace. Do you see this now really accelerating? Because there's no U-turn here. There's no way back, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I think we've at that inflection point, we've crossed it. So now it's a question of who can accelerate the fastest and who can create the greatest value for customers. That's what the name of the game is now. It's no longer about saying, hey, we're going to do digital or we're going to think about it because it sounds intriguing. It is now a must-have, and it's all about the pace of innovation and the value creation. And look, from my perspective, I look at it, I say there's a few different spheres of innovation. The first is around remote operations. Our business is one that has always been characterized as a business that is done at the well site, right? We are in a industry that is inherently hazardous. So, making sure that we have the right expertise at the location is incredibly important. But with digital technologies now, the ability to remotely visualize, to provide expertise on a real-time basis has changed the name of the game completely. And it actually changes the ability, not just from an efficiency standpoint, from a safety standpoint, but how much you can do around the world where you're not spending time traveling. It doesn't replace the on-site presence, but it augments it in a very special way. I think the second thing is automation. And we've seen that across multiple different product lines. One of my favorite examples is a product line or service line, tubular running services, that's pretty much as old as the industry itself. And this is a very fundamental service that we provide to our customers. And one of the most exciting advances that we've had in digitalization is our system called Vero, which is really a convergence of digitalization, of automation technologies that have allowed us to bring in artificial intelligence. And the combination of this system reduces the number of personnel on the rig floor, so it enhances safety by taking people out of the red zone. It dramatically improves the carbon footprint because you've got a smaller set of people that need to travel, and it's a better outcome because it is eliminating the need for human intervention. So that's another example of how automation can come in and really help. And then this last piece, which I just touched upon, is a whole sphere unto itself of artificial intelligence. This is where we now have the ability to take extremely large amounts of data and process them all, in real time, and provide outcomes and decisions for customers that allow them to optimize their operations. So, for example, we have a very, very exciting production optimization platform called Foresight, something that is deployed on hundreds of thousands of wells globally and is helping customers every single day. And we've got a lot of intelligence built into these models, and it's just staggering to see how the world has evolved. I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but I graduated a very, very long time ago with a degree in computer science, and now you look at what people are doing, and my kids tell me not to actually acknowledge that publicly, but it is just staggering what we are able to build into the products that help customers every single day.
So when you talk to your customers, and again, you work with all of the international oil companies, you're working with the national oil companies, around the world, of course, in Asia as well. What are you seeing in terms of their demands right now? Of course, they want efficiency, they want effectiveness, they want great solutions. But again, looking over the years in terms of what has changed in terms of, what do they demand? And again, what sets you apart from your competitors, I suppose, if I put it that way? I mean, what are the differentiators, if there's any in there, and there's got to be a few.
Yeah.
Let's say it's like, let's check out Weatherford and give Girish a call.
Sure. So look, I think the fundamentals are always going to stay in our industry, which is safety, compliance, and quality. That's extremely important to us, to all of our customers. And so it's sort of the entry ticket, right? It's a hygiene factor to a certain extent. You can't play if you don't adhere to that. So that's number one. But as they look at digital technologies, especially, I think a couple of things have evolved. So the first thing is they're really looking at us and saying, can you give me a tangible value proposition? It's not enough to just say, I'm going to do something digitally and, trust me, and it'll be a nice thing for you to say. There'll be a good buzz around it. They want us to be able to demonstrate to them value creation. But that value creation can come in the form of optimization of their production so they can produce more with the same set of resources. It can come in the form of efficiencies, which can be cycle time, it can be cost, it can be in the ability to do things that they weren't able to do before. And I think those are the kinds of things that customers are asking and demanding, saying, you have got to be able to prove this. So, and it's no longer just a trust me, it'll show up later. They want to see precedence theories, they want to see case studies. And so one of the things that we've been able to do very effectively is do a lot of field trials with operators, and that leads to success in the future. Now, in terms of our competitive differentiation, look, it's something that we are extremely excited about. We're very proud of what we've got at Weatherford in terms of digital capabilities running across all of our three segments. So we've got three segments that we operate under. We've got drilling and evaluation, well construction and completions, and production and intervention. And if you take a look at each one of these segments, within each of them, we have market leading product lines. And one of the unique things about us is we've got a digital thread that connects across all of them. So, for example, in our drilling and evaluation segment, we've got businesses like managed pressure drilling. This is a clear market leader for us, but it is augmented and significantly enhanced by digital capabilities. So we've got a system called Victus, which really brings in a variety of different technologies and provides far better real-time capabilities for our operators and everyone that we work with. So you look at that, then you look at our drilling services business. Within that, we've got real-time monitoring with a system called Centro. In our completions business, we've got an RFID suite of technologies that is very unique in the industry, and we've got a solution called Trip that is a single trip completion system, which is very, very unique, we feel. When you go into the production and intervention side of the business, this is probably the most mature segment when it comes to digital applications. And we've had, as I mentioned earlier, Foresight, which is our production optimization platform that has been incredibly successful. We also look very unique, I believe, within the industry in that we are the only oil field services company to actually have its own SCADA system. So we have a system called Signet, which has been very successful and has a very large loyal customer base that is an incredible strategic advantage for us. So we can take all of these different capabilities. They're great in their own regard and by themselves discretely, but the real power is in our abilities to start stitching these together. Now, we're not there fully yet. We are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but the potential is immense to be able to take a customer through that journey on the full well life cycle, all the way from the drilling portion through the construction completion into production, and say, how can we optimize your overall business through our digital capabilities? And I think that's something that we are working hard towards. That is a very unique and differentiating value proposition. And especially as I think, look, relative to the conference that we are at today, which is OTC Asia. Asia is an incredibly important market in that regard, because Asia has a very large number of brownfields. And so optimization becomes something that is incredibly important for our customers in that region, and they really want to make sure that the region that is one of the world's biggest drivers of demand also has the capability to optimize their own set of supplies and work through their resources. So I'm tremendously excited about the potential that we have here.
And I want to talk a little bit more in depth, clearly, about Asia, because this is the big focus. And of course, everybody is very excited about all of the technology, new technology, current technology, everything, that you bring. But talk to me a little bit, I suppose, about the concept of, when you work with the big customers, the big partners here, in terms of what are they adopting for the future, and maybe what are they letting go of? Because clearly you've got a loyal customer base, they depend on you, and that gives them a lot of confidence to make sure that they get the job done as well. But, have you seen a shift over the years in terms of what's the next direction?
Yeah, look, I think we're seeing a couple of important shifts, and I'll be a bit more specific to Asia. So I think the first thing, right, in Asia is you look at the last 2 years, the evolution of the pandemic. Unfortunately, Asia has been one of the hardest hit regions, and you've had countries that have been in a very stringent set of lockdowns for a very long period of time. So I think there has been a natural shift towards more digital capabilities and the need for that, because it has just been very difficult to get in and out, to move personnel in and out, etc., and to really transfer new technology. So I think digital capabilities on providing technology, whether it is through remote operations or greater automation, is I think incredibly important. So that's one. The second thing that we're seeing that is very interesting, right? I touched upon this notion of brownfields in Asia. What's happening at sort of the tail end of that is you've got a lot of fields that need to now get into the end of stage or end of life stage of their evolution and life cycle. And so what we are seeing is a very strong focus on plug and abandonment. With the increasing recognition of the importance of sustainability, responsible abandonment becomes incredibly important. So we have a very, very exciting solution that has been pioneered to a large extent in Asia, called Firma. And this is our overall abandonment portfolio, where we really provide an integrated service to our customers. We bring together multiple different product lines and all of the capabilities required to take it from the customer side and say, we will take care of the responsible abandonment of your old well. So I think that's something that is increasingly important. And then you've got things like enhanced oil recovery, which become really important. Again, when you have mature fields, you've got a lot of brownfield development. That's something that you look at what you can get out of that, coupled with really this notion of production optimization that I referenced earlier. So a lot of big themes that are critical. The last thing that I'll mention specifically to Asia is we're also seeing a continued shift from IOCs to NOCs, right? We've got a lot of PSCs expiring. And so you've got national companies taking over those concessions. And, while they have the same rigor and the same demands on safety, on performance, etc., you're now, we've got a greater focus and a greater responsibility to also drive workforce development, local content establishment. So how do we contribute to our communities? So it's a duality, really. You've got to be sustainable in the communities that you operate in, but you've also got a responsibility for development. And it's not an either or, it has to be an and solution.
And staying with that theme at the moment too, I mean, you're talking about the local content and how important that is. And I also think the NOCs, we look at them, have become so much more sophisticated, in years, and many of them actually being regional and international players. This puts a lot of demand, on everybody when it comes to talent in the area. And, as you say, looking back on your career, it was a very different oil field, so to speak, back even 10 years ago. Talk to me about, what are you looking for when you're looking for good talent out there? And what do you see is really needed right now to make sure that the industry is really, I suppose, driving the next layer of leadership? I mean, what are the key talent areas that you're looking for and that everybody should be looking for?
Hey, look, it's a great question. And it's an enduring challenge and a strong theme for our industry as a whole, right? The so-called graying of the workforce in this particular sector has got ramifications. And, I think we've all come to the realization that oil and gas is going to be around for a while. While we've got a tremendous responsibility to drive a greater degree of sustainability, this energy transition is exactly that. It is a transition. So we will be around for a long period of time. So we need that talent base with that expertise who can continue to not just run the sector, but to innovate in the sector. So as I look at it, I think, there's a few things. The first one is really, this is an industry that by definition operates in hazardous conditions, in inhospitable environments, and we are operating with, highly combustible flammable substances by definition. So we need people who understand that and have a deep commitment to safety and understand the importance not just of personal, but also of process safety. So, and it needs to be a passion. It's something that is ingrained into everyone in this industry. Look, beyond that, I think, one of the things that I think is very, very unique about our industry, it has just got an amazing trove of talent and technology that comes together. And, people think about oil and gas and say, well, look, it's an old industry, it's aging, high tech is exciting, we've got new stuff. The amount of technology that goes into our industry is mind boggling. And to be able to do it at the kinds of temperatures, the pressures, the depths that we operate at, and the kind of environments we operate at, I think is an incredibly exciting thing for someone starting out their career, because you get to use state-of-the-art technology and you get to do it in the most challenging of circumstances. So for people who love solving problems, this is the place to be. I also think this is now, a place where, we've got this next generation. Look, and I talk about my kids a lot. As I look at them, right, they're different because they have an inbuilt inherent sense of responsibility towards the environment and towards sustainability. I think that's fantastic. And that's a critical thing for us to attract, so we can make sure we are getting the best ideas and are thinking about things in a different fashion than, say, my generation thought about it. We've got to be open to those new ideas, but we've got to make sure that we bring in the people who can bring those ideas to us. So I think, look, for us, it's about attracting people from all spheres of life, different backgrounds, different education, but there is so much opportunity because we have big challenges in front of us.
Now, I recently read a book called The Future is Asian, a fascinating book by a gentleman called Parag Khanna. I don't know if came across it. Read it if you get hold of it. But it also, it plays into the fact that we're going to see growth in the region, but we're also going to see huge energy growth. And this is something, again, that is so important for all of the energy players. Just talk to me a little bit about, the role of a region that really is, thriving in the sense that energy demand has to be met. And is the industry, ready for that? And what role do you see Asia playing as we kind of go ahead in the next couple of years?
Yeah. So, Edna, look, I think Asia has, three fundamental pillars that it plays on that I think are incredibly important for our whole industry as a whole. The first one, as you pointed out, is it is a tremendous source of energy demand, and it is going to grow, and it is going to grow faster than many other places, right? The largest populations of the world are in India and China, and if you agglomerate all of Southeast Asia, you add a very big chunk to that. So, energy demand is going to come from there, which means everyone needs to be focused on Asia to say, how do we serve that energy demand? You can't just completely dislocate it and say, well, we'll worry about the supply side separately. How you get the supply and the demand matched up becomes very important. So I think that's, one aspect of where Asia plays a big role. The second piece from an Asia standpoint for me is talent. When you have the demographics that Asia has, which is a combination of just sheer magnitude of people, the education systems that you have within it, and the technical expertise that it drives, I think creates a very, very important source of talent for the industry as a whole. And so, being able to recruit talent, being able to use that talent in the rest of the world to share best practices, to learn, to cross-pollinate. I think Asia's got a huge role to play from that standpoint. And I think the third piece is around supply chains. Right, we've seen over the last couple of decades a significant shift in a variety of industries on supply chain movement into Asia, whether it is in the form of factories, whether it's in the form of service centers, etc. So I think Asia will continue to have that capability. And so how do we as an oil and gas industry leverage the inherent capabilities that are there to drive efficiencies into our processes and then pass that on to our customers, and so that we can all create greater value. So I think those are the three big pillars in my mind. And so Asia is an incredibly important part of the global ecosystem around energy supply and demand.
And again, as you say, it's demand and supply, and the region is, very dynamic at the moment, and a lot going on there. Talk to me a little bit, just as we close off here, in terms of, I suppose, what does the industry need to do in the short term? And once again, we're in a situation of a lot going on in the industry. There's always a challenge in the oil and gas industry, in the hydrocarbon industry, year after year, and many different challenges. But at the moment, we're looking at a time of high oil prices and, a lot of geopolitical issues right now. But what can the industry do? I mean, to I suppose, stay calm in one way, despite the fact there's a lot of pressure, I think, coming from everywhere. And again, we're looking at high prices right now. Hopefully they won't be here forever. But where do you think is the best focus that everybody should be looking at right now to make sure that we're looking at this for the long term? Because that's where we all need to be looking.
Yeah, Edna, I think it's a great question. And look, I'll just draw upon the simple experience I have of running Weatherford and where we are focused on, and draw from our focus areas and our strategic vectors. So I think, again, it comes down to three things. The first one is focusing on the fundamentals. As you said, the world is a volatile place. There is a lot happening today in the world, and a lot of challenges, a humanitarian tragedy unfolding, that we're all seeing in Ukraine, etc. So, beyond that, look, I think we've got to focus on the things that we can control, which is safety, quality, and executing for our customers. So that's, to me, the number one thing as an industry we've just got to stay very, very focused on, because especially at a time like this, a miss in execution, can create ripple effects that will be felt across the world and will have far-reaching ramifications. So focusing on that fundamentals and driving execution is number one. The second part is innovation. the whole world is innovating. We've talked a lot today about digital, but it's not just digital. It's across the suite of our technologies, and it is incredibly exciting for me to watch all of the different announcements from different companies, from different organizations in terms of what is happening. And look, we are extremely honored, just as Weatherford, to have received the OTC Spotlight Award for Technology. But there's a lot of great stuff happening across the industry with many of our peers, with ourselves. And so driving innovation to create value for our customers is the second piece. And the last thing that I would say is responsibility around sustainability. This is something that is now, again, a must have for us. I think we all recognize that we are an industry in transition. It is going to be a long transition. It's not overnight. But as we go through that, we're all focused on how can we do things in a more sustainable fashion. So I think that's really what it is. And it becomes a question of how do you play on these different tracks and make progress simultaneously. So that's what it's about. It's balancing all of these priorities and pushing them all forward.
Indeed. And so great to hear you and have your thoughts on that again, looking at, I love it where you put it in perspective, I suppose, responsibility, for sustainability in so many ways, but innovation to drive value. I'm sure that's probably the number one thing that's on all of your clients' minds when they come to see what you can offer to them and what you can help in terms of, working together as partners to continue to actually deliver energy for the world, and staying with the theme of our conference, setting the pace for future energy. So Girish Saligram, I want to thank you so much for being with us, President and CEO of Weatherford. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Etna, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. I hope everyone enjoys a wonderful conference. Take care.
We'll keep in touch. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.